Hello and welcome back to my channel, Bookish Lady Night, where we get a look behind the book. Today, I am joined by Natalie Rucando, and she is the author of a thriller series. And it's not just a thriller series, it's a supernatural romantic thriller series. So I am very intrigued. But it is called Smeared Lavender, and it's the first book is out and available now. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm glad to do this.
I'm excited. So, can you give us like the elevator pitch or like what you tell people when they ask you what your book's about?
Sure. Let me just go ahead. It was one thing that I keep on my phone. So, Smeared Lavender, as you said, supernatural romantic thriller series. And as you said, the first book is available. So, landing a client from the Middle East, Nexxa travels to Beirut, where her past involvement with the IRA resurfaces through her abduction by Hezbollah, converging with a Russian suitor and her supernatural gifts. So,
Ooh, I like that. That sounds like it could be like a mini series of a TV show. That sounds really good.
well, I'm hoping.
That'd be awesome. So, what drew you to blend romance with the supernatural and the thriller aspects of your story?
Well, I would say from what I was inspired by, I don't know if that'll be a question in the future, but I'll just say it now. The one of the most recent things I watched before I actually started writing was the Honorable Woman series, and I think that was by a British producer, and it takes place
Hmm.
in the Middle East. And I think I've always had a love for anything that's mystical or esotericism. So I happen to have a lot of those books around anyway. So um, through reading, through traveling, and then you just kind of start to piece things together. The first novel was not necessarily intentional, if that makes sense. And I've heard that's common for a lot of first time authors.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that too. It just kind of happens and it just kind of
Yeah.
comes about. So, did you always like write or want to be a writer, or was that just like way out of left field for you?
I would say no. Probably the only time I could think that I wrote was maybe like in junior high school. And it's very like, uh, childish in a way. If you look back at something that you might have had in a keepsake box, like, oh, look how my handwriting even looked back then when I was 12 or
Yeah.
13. It was only when, after I had my first child, that my sister and I started to do a lifestyle magazine.
Uh-huh.
So we were trying to create a brand around that. And I would write short blurbs, little stories, maybe something one page, a funny story. And I just kind of thought, oh, I really enjoy this. And then I had a web shop for a while and I enjoyed writing what I call backstories for the clothing. Like one dress would have its own name and its own backstory. So that's the
Mhm.
only precursor I had.
Wow, that's so interesting. So, do you guys still do the lifestyle magazine?
Unfortunately, a lot of times when you have a passion for something, it's kind of your passion. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you can relate to that. So you kind of have to kind of like, okay, I'm the only one doing this, and it's almost better that it's you individually.
Uh-huh.
And so, no, unfortunately, we did editions of it, and then it just, didn't go further than that.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's a good start though. That's really cool. I
Yeah.
haven't heard that before. So that's really cool that that's your origin story. That's really, really
Yeah.
awesome. So what inspired you to write in this genre?
Definitely, I've always had a love for, espionage. Those would be
Yeah.
the shows or the movies I would gravitate towards. Nothing intentional necessarily when it came to writing. As I said, the Honorable Woman series was, like, the most recent thing I had watched, and yeah, and the supernatural part, my mother is a medium, so I've always had that in my history in my family, and I've
Mhm.
always, dabbled in stuff like that myself, not to get too specific. And then the romance part, I guess that just kind of came. I think that came because I feel like as you become more mature as a woman, you have children, then you start to realize, yeah, those things aren't happening in real life, but they can happen in a book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
true. I love that. My mom did numerology since she was like 13 and she's taught me all of that. So I love all of that. That whole
Yeah. Hmm.
realm of stuff is just right up my alley.
Do
So
you
I
know
love
what your, oh gosh, soul number is? Or is it life number?
I am a life path
Life,
2.
life
So
path
I'm
too.
a teacher and
Okay.
bringing people together. And so that's
Okay.
mine. But my
Okay.
main number is 11, which condenses down to
The
2.
2. Yes.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very interesting. I just went over that again with my reread what each person in my family is, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much truth to it."
Yes, it's very interesting, and then you get to see, like, how you butt heads with, like, people in your family. Like, I think my daughter's name adds up to a 1, and she's totally like a 1 personality.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
interesting to see.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, "Let's maneuver together," and she's like, "No."
Yeah.
So, I like that. I love the astrological signs that can tell you a lot about a
Yes.
person, and you have more than 1. Most people only know about the 1, so I always love to
Correct.
ask them to look up their other signs.
Right.
I'm a double whammy Gemini with a Libra moon, so
Oh,
I
okay.
have all of everything's up in my head.
Okay.
So, I like that. So, within your story, do you I know it doesn't have necessarily, well, it might have, supernatural beings or creatures, but do you, when you're doing your research or after you started writing, did you do any research to look into, like, elements of mythology or folklore or myths of any kind to kinda weave into the story?
I did, and I think, because there was one character that, I think as I put in my notes, I don't need to really look at it, that she started out just kind of like by happenstance. She just kinda changed, like, she started out as a man, then she became a woman, and then I was able to even play with that, like, maybe she does impersonations because,
Mhm.
she's an antagonist. And then in the second novel, when I did work with developmental editors, they were like, "Well, how can she do this?" And I was like, "No, you just know, like, that's her supernatural power." And so I did. I had to like push myself to go, "What is her power, and how do I take something that's maybe something that I read about, and then
Uh-huh.
kind of mold it and twist it to where it is kind of like." Okay, you start with something that's maybe real and tangible, and then you kind of mold it and twist it to where it's something supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some things just came by happenstance. Some things, like Smeared Lavender is the main character, main female character, she has a lavender glow, and so same thing after I had finished the first novel and went with another developmental editor and copy editor, she kinda pushed and said, "Explain a little more," and I thought, "Well, don't you just know? It's a supernatural glow."
Yeah.
So once
So
I
it really
think,
made you think.
yes, yes, because you kinda have that in your mind, which I'm sure is the whole point of developmental editing. But, yes, I
Yeah.
refer to many books that I have on one of them is, like, just looking up symbols, and they'll have small descriptions, and then you kinda can play off of that, so that helped
Mhm.
tremendously.
That's awesome. I love that. I love hearing the process of, like, how the mind works to create the stories. I think it's so cool. So for you, when this story started, what came first? It was more of, like, the suspense story, or, like, was it more of, like, a mystery woven through, or the romance?
I would say it was definitely the romance because there was this, I call it like a petite lucid dream that I had. And I really felt like that it just, this one small kind of like one sentence stuck in my mind, nothing like what I wrote for the
Mhm.
pitch. And it definitely had that element of romance. I knew it. And then, like I said, as I kept writing and then watched the Honorable Woman series, I was very big into the Homeland series at the time.
Mhm.
And it just, like, the first one was not, I wouldn't say the prettiest version of, like, what most authors would do when they're plotting and planning and outlining. It was nothing like that. So it just was a lot of 300 pages of stuff, and then it took several years, though, for the first to make it have
Yeah.
any sort of sense and direction.
So you were kind of like a discovery writer or a pantster rather than the plotter.
For sure. For the first one, for sure, Panster. So, which I
Yeah.
think kind of was fun because I think had I known what I was doing to begin with, I don't know that I would have let the story come to me.
Okay. Okay. I like that. Did you know how you were gonna have it end, or you just had that first scene that you used from your dream?
Like the first one took a few years to write, and then I was like, I'm done. And then it turns out, no, you're not until you work with a developmental editor. But I definitely would say that the ending, I was like, it kind of literally was one of those moments you might see in a movie where the writer, like the novelist is top, 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 and then he's like, the end, and it's just like, well, I guess that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Because it wasn't planned necessarily. So, and then I think once I got to the end of the first, as an inexperienced author or writer, that's when I realized, oh, there's more to tell. And then an epilogue came, and then obviously the next two.
Yeah. So now with the second book, do you feel like you're more plotting out and doing that process?
Oh, for sure for the second, and the third I did, but the third I wrote within 6 months, which again, for experienced authors is typical for someone who's not, for sure. Yeah, the second, I definitely knew a lot more what I was doing and did more plotting, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
You feel like it helped you, or do you feel like it hindered your creative process having it mapped out?
No, I feel like, because then as I wrote, I would look back and go, okay, this gets shifted down to next chapter, or, this person no longer is going to be intimate with this person after like a round of development editing. And I wouldn't say so. And I would say one of my, one of my answers I put for some questions in case the answer or the question was put to me, like, what do you do if you have writer's block? And music will just kind of relax the mind. And then yeah, it's just then your subconscious can work.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of my questions. That's interesting. I like to ask people how they work through writer's block because
Yeah.
everybody's different. So,
Oh, okay.
yours is
What answers
music.
have you been given from other authors? I'm curious.
I've been given that if they have another project, they'll shift to that project. They'll do one author I talked to, she also liked to paint. So when she was stuck, she would go and paint to do something within the realm, or she'd draw. So, and still being creative, but not writing.
Okay.
Another one was like, I go out and go in nature. Another one was saying that she goes to a rage room and,
Oh,
like, throws
okay.
plates at the wall. I was like, "That's fun." Like, that one, that sounds
Okay.
interesting. Get all of it
I love
out.
all those ideas. I love all
Yeah,
those
so
ideas. Okay. No, that's helpful to
yes,
know for sure.
there's some good ones out there.
Yeah.
So, another one said she would interview her main characters, like, ask them questions. I was like, "That's interesting." Like,
Wow.
she
Okay.
gets more of their personality, than it helps her with the story, and I was like,
Uh,
"That's really cool too."
uh-huh. It's kind of like, yeah, like role playing, like yeah. I mean, because you have to believe it. You have to believe they're alive.
Yeah. So, I've heard all kinds of really cool ones, so I like that,
Oh,
getting the
wow.
different,
Perspective.
ways
Yeah.
people get out of stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay.
So then now, after being through the development and editing, how did you go about establishing your rules in your supernatural aspect of your world?
Well, definitely had to make a lot of notes to keep. Literally, I think I had one part for each character, their supernatural abilities, because it is a lot to keep track of. And then I think I watched one free clip on a master class. Was it Dan Brown, one of those well renowned authors? Like, well, one person did not him. I think he said, write your antagonistic person, your antagonist first. And then another, I think, author had said, Sarah Cannon, she said to write your magic first, and I was like, oh gosh, I did not do any of those things in order. But definitely I had to have notes for what can this power do? What can it not do? And how can it affect someone? And then you have to look forward. Well, can it change? It's a tremendous amount of work, but I would say it's not near to the level of like writing a fantasy world. That I don't think I would have wouldn't have it in
Yeah.
me for that. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably a little challenging. So,
mm-hmm.
with world building, because even though it's based in our world, there are elements that are not. How are you going about telling the information? Are you drip feeding it in? Are you kind of info dumping? What did your process look like?
I think I was dripping too little initially, and then that's when, like I said, developmental editors, like, they need to be the stars of the show sometimes,
Mhm.
because they have this knack, if you have really good ones, for going and saying, "You're not telling us enough," or you can just sometimes spell it out a little bit, because I'm like, I feel like if you're spelling things out too much, but they just kind of have a way of helping you finesse that because novel one doesn't have a tremendous amount of the supernatural element. It's kind of the foreshadowing and building up to it. And
Yeah.
it does explain it, but you're right. It's probably like a little bit of drips in the first one all through until like the end. And then it doesn't get more in depth until other characters are really like exposed in book 2 and 3.
Okay. That's awesome. What do you feel makes a romantic pairing compelling in the regards of having like a suspense or a thriller or those kinds of story
Definitely feel
notes?
like if there's a challenge, which is kind of maybe a cliched statement, there again, the first novel, it didn't necessarily come about with a certain, like, how are they going to come together? It kinda developed that way, but definitely they came together in the first novel because of the challenge, and I would say then I throw them an internal relationship challenge in the second novel. So kind of played with that, because I thought, well, that's a typical dynamic, but let's, of course, you bring the stakes up, so with depending on like who he is and who she is and where they've gotten to together at that point. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So, with your story, do you have more of a slow burn or like an instant chemistry between the characters?
they definitely have an instant chemistry. It's not an instant intimate chemistry, but we do space that out. But I do show some other personal chemistry narratives, like maybe don't necessarily want to call it like masturbation, but like where you could show kind of like this person's pining over someone. So
Mhm.
kind of builds up. And there again, in the first book, the main female character, she does have one, maybe two initial suitors that aren't a main love interest, but kind of fall into play in the, situation where there's a challenge to where,
Yeah.
the main one comes in. So
Yeah. And they
yeah.
have to figure things out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, how does danger change the romance in your story? Or how do you feel in stories maybe you've read that really changes the stakes?
I feel like it's alluring because in a way women want to kind of feel like okay, someone, whoever the romantic partner is, whether it's, a male, female, or same sex couple, like that someone can come in and take charge, but at the
Mhm.
same time, they might still be a strong character themselves. But I think deep down in every relationship, there's going to be, one who's going to be more like, I am taking control and I can take care of things kind of person. And I feel like
Yeah.
that element's always going to be, I think that's a natural pairing, how we naturally mate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like throwing danger in there. Are we still connected? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You're good. Yeah.
These I don't like these earbuds. I feel like danger is always something that's alluring to somebody.
Yeah.
I feel like that personally. Like if it's I mean, unless you're into rom-coms, which this is not. So,
Yeah. No. I I love a good rom-com, but I do like that added layer of like suspense and like him protecting her or her protecting him because sometimes the roles get reversed and I
of
like
course.
that
Oh
like
yeah, for sure.
back and forth.
Yeah.
So with having a human protagonist at the beginning and then she finds out maybe she's not necessarily all human with a love interest that's being supernatural, who was more fun to write?
I think it would be almost I hate to say it would be 50-50, but I feel like initially potentially she would have been. But the thought of him was really enticing, and that's what I was really trying to put, like, in readers' heads, like, the thought of this type of male that's not going to be typical, which I know that's a cliche too, but I would say she was probably I would okay, yes, that would be she would be more interesting the first, and the second, I kind of am able to build him more the second novel, so definitely that's the way that worked now that I think about it.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
So, how do you keep readers on the edge? Do you go with shorter chapters? Do you focus on like little mini cliffhangers or like altering the emotional moments with the action? What's your usual take for keeping readers engaged?
I would definitely say there are sometimes extremely shorter chapters, like a few pages long in between, that might kind of flip to just one character's perspective. Or not necessarily perspective because it is third person, but definitely the tone can change. And let's see, how else yeah, sometimes they are left on a little bit of not so much a cliffhanger, but I definitely feel like, yeah, that would probably be I'm trying to think about the second. It's like I haven't reread that in so long because then I heard. I would definitely say that for sure. I think that's probably what you're supposed to do. Try and leave it a little bit, unknowns, but not too much. So
When you combine high emotional vulnerability with intense action, did you struggle with the pacing?
probably it's funny because the first novel I did get some initial feedback like wow, there's a lot going on here. And I'm like, yes, because I had an extremely diverse, large character cast of characters. And that wasn't necessarily intentional. They just were popping out from nowhere, like, I'm in here, I'm in here. I think by the third book, that was really easy because it's the third and the final. It moves pretty fast, pretty well, like, understood, like, we already know the direction of everyone except for this, antagonist that's going to be there I definitely feel like the pace of it sometimes does change the emotional stakes, so
Mhm.
2 and 3 probably have more of that pacing, helping establish the emotional stakes, and what was the other part of the question?
Just like how you have the emotional vulnerability with intense action, like how you
Okay.
pace that and make it flow.
Yeah, I think I definitely made it flow in a different way in book 2 because they are more established. The main love interest, the main 2 characters are definitely more established, so it was easier to put more emotion into that in a faster paced environment.
Yeah. I kind of remember part of what I was going to ask earlier. So, in other books, and don't get me wrong, I love those books. You have like the fated mates, you have like the instant attraction and then that's the one person you like. But I do like the stories where they have other love interests, because that's kinda like how it is in the real world. You don't necessarily
Yeah.
find the first time out of the gate. I mean, if you're really lucky, but most of the time you
Yeah.
have a few that you have to, work through and figure out that they're not right for you. And I like that seems like you have that in your story.
It does, it develops basically in the second novel just because I thought, it's exactly what you said, nothing's going to be perfect, even if you are fated mates. Let's throw
Mhm.
something in, like, "Oh, look over there, like, he's someone," I don't know if I should reveal too much if, we'd have the opportunity to kinda, like, go into the second
Yeah.
on another one or because it's not released, but at this point, I don't know that it matters, but
Yeah.
basically, that's kind of what happens. It's not necessarily just like a wandering eye kind of situation. It is someone from the past who comes in strong, and then, the character Nexxa and Sergey, they are thrown something at them, not necessarily from that past love interest, but something just in his personal world, and then her supernatural element. There's something that goes on there, with the continuing antagonist that comes in from the first. So I throw a lot in at them when they're like, "Oh, everything's good now." Nope, it's not. So that's kind of how the second plays out.
Yeah. And then with writing, so you said it's in third person. Was that easier, or do you feel like it was harder to write in third person?
I wouldn't know how to write in first person. I've read them and I'm like, I can't do this. I have to even reorient my mind to read a novel like that. So
Okay, so you prefer more third person novels when you're reading as well?
I do follow an author, Kimberly Bell, that I like, and I've read a few of her novels once I finally was able to take time from writing, and then I had to kind of go, oh, okay, this chapter is Stella, and then I think the next chapter is Adam, and I'm still thinking in Stella's mind and a female, and I'm like, oh, that's right, it's a man, So,
Yeah.
and that could just come from my experience as a writer, not that I'm sure readers might even have a preference. I don't know. I just had one as a writer, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I interviewed an author last year. She writes the main character in first person, and then the multi point of view of the two, because it's a love
Oh.
triangle, are in third person. So she shifts within
Oh,
her book
wow.
from first person to third person depending on
Okay.
who's talking, and it
That
was
takes
really
work.
interesting. Yeah, but it really, like, it opened up a lot of, like, the outside, like, influences that they are noticing
Right.
of the main character, but she's in her head. It was really cool. I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, "I don't know how you did that," like, the
Yeah,
amount of
that's
time that
talent.
took, but wow, because I usually read first person or third person, and then there's a few
Mhm.
authors that do second person, which that is just a mind trip for me, and I
Yeah.
can't, I
Yeah.
struggle with second
Yeah.
person.
I've
But
almost forgot what second person is. At some
yeah,
point,
it's
you're like,
like,
"Wait,
"You
wait, what
did
is that
this,
again?"
you did that," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "I can't wrap my mind around this," so
Yeah.
it's just interesting to see that, so
Of course.
what has been the hardest type of scene for you to write?
Oh, the hardest type of scene. Oh, definitely would be, it probably started out like a, if you wanna call it just a generic term, a battle scene, because
Mhm.
you want it to be real realistic. Not that you don't want an intimate scene to be realistic, but let's face it,
Yeah.
we've all been more intimate than we probably have been in battle.
Yes. Let's
So,
hope.
but then even still the intimate scenes, you'd be like, "Wait, does that work?" Or, and, I would say the battle, that's for sure, because whether it's female, female, going at and then you gotta remember the supernatural element part, or if it's male, male, that's definitely so I definitely had to pull from my son did some Krav Maga, lessons, and I had to rewatch some of the videos. It was a rabbi who taught him. He called himself the fighting rabbi, and he was a really wonderful, very good with instruction. But he would also record some things at the end and send me those videos on WhatsApp. And I thought
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna go rewatch those
Yeah.
because he obviously knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. That's a good idea. My daughter does Krav Maga too, so I think it's great. I think it's really good. It gives,
Yeah,
they have, because it's mixed martial arts, so to speak. So they have, a little bit of everything, but they have their own like rules system and they're very dedicated and disciplined. So I think that's a great idea that you use that
yeah,
to incorporate in
for
your
sure.
story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I would
That's
love to have the whole family have more lessons and even take from it more for future novels if it comes to that point, if I write more.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mhm.
So then on the flip side, what were the easiest scenes for you to get through?
I found dialogue kind of naturally easy. And I remember having one beta reader say, "Oh, there was a lot of dialogue in here." And I thought, "Is there?" I thought that's what was part of it. I thought, because I guess because, you can kind of hear for me, I was like, I could hear this. And then I could hear the accent and dialects. And that just really like I could push through those scenes very easily.
Hmm. That's awesome. So you didn't struggle at all with balancing, or did you, with world building ish versus the dialogue, that balance? Did you struggle with that?
I would say once the first, that was the biggest, huge, hurdle was done, the first novel. It did become a little bit easier balancing because the world building kind of was established. It was just more of like certain characters making sure I knew their magic realism or supernatural part correctly. Because
Hmm.
then you could kind of soft write it, as I call it, like, okay, I'll come back to that and add to it later.
Yeah.
And which I'll do that for everything, even dialogue. But I felt like I could flow through dialogue a little bit easier because
Hmm.
it's almost kind of like I was like you said about the one author who would have a conversation or interview her character. It kind of felt like that, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So
Yeah. It does. So then in lines with characters, was there a hard character that you wrote, like one that was more difficult than the other ones?
trying to think across, no, I don't think anyone was harder because, like I said, initially in the first book, they kind of a couple of them of the antagonists specifically came about by happenstance or they kind of got molded and changed a little bit easier. No, I feel like I just kind of imagined that person and I already had like a ethnicity and a personality and a tone of their voice. It was like they were talking to me,
Okay. So
as if I
living
was a
rent free in
medium.
your mind.
Yeah, I felt like I'd have felt like if I had that much ability to be a medium and channel others, they were there, kind of like in that what was the movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's kind of faking it initially, and then she can't stop hearing his name. What's his name? Oh,
Uh,
he passed away. I can
Patrick
see his
Swayze.
yes, yes. And then all of a sudden she's like, wait, no, I can really hear you.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant to do. And that's kind of how I felt with my character. So I can relate to the other author that she would interview her character. That's just kind of, I I probably had conversations with them after enough wine and listened to music and didn't know it.
Yeah. So was there a side character that kind of surprised you that ended up being a bigger spot, or maybe like was more active in your dialogue and mind than you originally thought?
For sure, one kind of we'll just call him maybe a supernatural being because at first that's kind of just what he was or like
Mhm.
a very realistic looking like apparition or something. And he appears in the very end of the prologue in the first novel. And I didn't know he was coming back for anything else. And then he comes back towards the end of the second novel and then he is the kind of the highlight of like hello, I'm here in the third. So yeah, he surprised me because like I said, he was kind of like, Casper the ghost over here,
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, I'm gonna be even more intense and kind of come to full fruition.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So, w did you have a favorite villain
Uh,
within your
well,
story?
I did take notes. That would definitely be Diane Suhu
Okay.
because she is carried through 1 and 2. And yeah, I mean, I love them all. They're all equal. But yeah, well, I would say her, she definitely is on the female side.
Anything else that
And then I definitely have, I don't know if I should, well, his name is mentioned in the first Dracos. So he's definitely
okay.
one that will be, he's definitely hands down my favorite for the male side. Yeah.
Awesome. So, what did the writing process look like for you? And then from the first one versus what it looked like for the second and the third one, how did that change?
Oh, it changed because I was very much more knowledgeable and very much more open to constructive criticism. Not necessarily that I didn't expect that, I just didn't know the writing process. I didn't
Mhm.
know working with editors. I had no knowledge of the industry or the craft. So by book two, way better. However, did did actually utilize 2 different developmental editors in that situation. And then by book 3, the developmental editor I used was kinda like, "Okay, wow, like, your craft has definitely improved." As far as not like, oh, the story in book 1 and 2 weren't good, you just kinda knew how to kinda take care of a lot of things on the front end and not just wait to be told what to do.
Yeah. That's awesome. Have you struggled with burnout?
Mm, I don't think so because I think potentially I could have if I'd written more than 3. By the time I pushed through the 3rd so quickly that then I just kinda felt like, okay, kinda like that example I gave in, like, I think Jude Law when he played a movie where he's a novelist or something, and he's like, "The end," and I was like, "Okay, great, good. Now what do I do?" You
Yeah.
know? So, no, burnout didn't come there. Burnout, I think, comes from the exhausting part that all indie authors have of the marketing.
The
That's what it
marketing.
is, figuring out what to do, when to do, where to put your money. That to me is the burnout part.
And what do you recommend for new authors that are just starting this journey?
It depends if you're going to speak on the writing process, which I'm not versed enough to tell them that, or the marketing part. Is that what you'd
Probably
be
maybe more the marketing part since
marketing?
you said that was more of like your curveball.
Yeah. I think you just have to kind of fall into it. You have to know. For me, I definitely, from the very beginning, had created my LLC and my creative writing brand, Smeared Vampire. And so from there, I also kind of knew I'm also creating me as a brand. And that felt relevant to me. I'm not sure, that would that's very very individualistic, you know? Are you a brand? Are you a pen name? Um, yeah, because the marketing
Maybe
part.
doing those questions, like asking yourself what their vision it would be before they jump in anywhere.
Right, right. Because as I said, Sarah Cannon was one of the authors that I used a lot of her free PDF downloads on how to write and create characters and questions and setting up a business, establishing this, that, whatever. I also did consult with, you know, I hate to call them like a psychic, but she was like, "You need to set up an LLC."
Yeah.
And so sometimes you get some real world advice from other sources you're not expecting it from. And yeah, I mean, because I would not want to be, I have no problem chatting. I have no problem being social, no problem doing a podcast or anything. But I wasn't thrilled about, okay, now I've got to be on social media. Okay, what do I do? Just a picture? Okay, I'm not going to do that. So then I don't know if you've seen any of my content. It just kind of came about like, oh, I'll do silly videos drinking wine, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah, I like
each
it.
person
I
has
think
to find what works for them. Yeah.
it shows your personality and it shows you in a relaxed way where it's not like you don't feel like you're faking it. It's you
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
showing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm completely just this is it.
Yeah. I think that's more authentic. Like I know everybody's that perfect photo or that perfect video, but like for
Mm-mm.
me, I'll sometimes just hop on and I'll just be like, so this just happened. And I'm like, just share the crazy story that I just had. And that ends up being more meaningful and engaging with people than the like one that I thought about and it's planned
Mhm.
out and scripted out. So yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
agree.
I should get better at that because 'cause I'm always like, "Oh, do I have mascara on today? Oh my god," you know?
Yeah.
Even today, my hair is not washed. I don't care. Yeah,
Yep.
so
I it's Doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I feel like in this world, it almost is better being authentic because everybody else seems to be doing like the perfect image and it's not always them. So
Oh, yeah,
I know
yeah,
I appreciate that more because then I feel connected. I feel more like they're human and I'm human and we're like
right.
the same. So I like that. So if you could have any supernatural ability, what would it be and why?
I've always known that from, I think, being a child, to speak every language possible and every dialect within every language.
Oh, that's cool. That would be
Yeah.
very handy.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like Elon Musk is gonna give us this AI. I think he said, like, you won't need to learn new languages. I'm like, that's so sad. But
I know.
yeah, I mean, I would just like to have it intuitively, even if AI
Yeah.
can do it. I
I
know.
think a
Like
lot of that. I think a lot of people are that way, especially with the whole AI trend now.
what all your authors that you interviewed have said, not just so much coming from a point of writer's block, but to me, that's writer's block and inspiration to me are like one and the same.
Mhm.
So everything that they told you, the previous authors, I feel like that should be
Yeah.
like, and that's it. You do not get AI.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
paint, you go
You do
smash
that.
things.
Yep, exactly. Because you never know, like, when you're doing something that it might just, like, spark an idea
Mhm.
of something your character did. But,
For
yeah,
sure.
it just is so I f it was just so crazy to me that people are like, "Oh, I wrote a book with AI." I'm like, "No, you really didn't write the
I
book."
heard that recently and I just didn't I just was like, I don't even wanna know anymore. I'm like, I'm just,
Yeah. Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. So, since you are in also to the supernatural and esoteric, if
Yes.
you had your idea of who your spirit animal would be, what animal would it be?
My spirit animal? That's hard because I've always wanted to be like a golden girl, like, 90 years old and like still alive with red lipstick on? So I'm like, is that my spirit animal?
I like that. I like
Just an
that.
old
I think
lady. I've always joked I'm an old lady. I like to go to bed early. I like to eat dinner at 4. I don't like to
Betty
drive.
White. Betty White is the spirit animal.
Yeah, that's probably it. I don't even get to be like a cute bunny or bird. I just get to be Betty White.
I love that. I love that. So, do you have a favorite snack and beverage that you have while you're writing?
Oh, wine.
Okay.
And if I incorporate something in there, I would love to eat just a whole bag of tortillas, but, so they're
Yeah.
fattening. So now it's just like, pretzels and boring Wassa crackers.
Yeah.
But at
What's
the
your
height of writing, sorry, at the
uh
height of writing, it was tons of wine and all the bad snacks for sure.
all the bad snacks.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
what's your favorite kind of wine?
Red, yeah, but I don't discriminate.
So, you like both more drier wines or sweet wines? It doesn't matter.
All of 'em. I'll drink all the colors. White,
Yeah.
rosé, red.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite trope to read and favorite trope to write?
Definitely still my favorite to read and to write would be thriller. I
Yeah.
definitely like just straight thriller, but a small like as I said, Kimberly Bell, like hers is thriller and there's romance, but it's not like open door, intimate scenes kind of thing. If I'm saying that correctly, I don't want to necessarily quote what
Yeah.
her novels are, but I've read like 2 of them. That would definitely, but you know what? I've read so many, not a tremendous amount in the last 5 years, but I like everything, and I'm probably always gonna stay in the same genre for writing.
Yeah.
So, it's I think with authors, it has to be what comes natural, and some can pivot and switch, so it depends.
Mhm. Yeah. So within tropes, because that's a big thing now as everybody labels what their
Sure.
tropes are in their book.
Yeah.
Is there a trope that you have not written yet that you want to write?
Hmm. I can't say it would be a specific trope. There is what I would call like a bro movie. Bruh. The same thing, it was came to me in a dream, but maybe around the time I started to write this series, it would be similar to like The Hangover, and I kinda did a synopsis for it, and it's
Uh-huh.
completely like, not anything near but I could just hear it and envision it and see it and laugh, and I feel like a lot of it was inspired by, like, my husband and, like
Mhm.
oh my god. And I don't know, yeah. I mean, I think if I ever did something completely opposite, it wouldn't be like the rom-com, it wouldn't be I don't even know what it would or crime novel or something. It would be something like just yeah, stupid bruh movie.
Yeah, like more like a comedy
Yeah,
type book.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
would I would probably I could probably and I always said if I could pair with another writer, maybe, a male who definitely take from his perspective to be like, "No, no, no, that's not what a man would say." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That would be
So,
cool though. That would be cool.
yeah, yeah, I'd like to collaborate with someone at some point, maybe once this series is fully published and successful, hopefully.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, within your story, was there a scene or a moment between the characters that when you were writing it, it caused you to either laugh out loud or have like a really deep emotional reaction to? And you can tell
Um,
us about?
yeah, definitely, let's see, I'm trying and it's hard because I have all 3 books in my mind, so it's like, which one do I pivot to? So let me try and stay with the first. I would definitely say with the first, not a laugh out loud moment, but one where I really felt like it connected them was when Nexa and Sergey are in his restaurant in Moscow, and she kind of like lets him know like this is the moment, like we're going to a hotel room, like it's going to be our first moment, And so for that, I kind of really liked how I made it come about, and because it was more her taking the lead.
Uh-huh.
And laugh out loud, definitely probably one of what I call like the Beirut cast. So one of the characters, the one that takes her there, for the business purpose of her travels. Definitely him once he has an incident where he kind of has an accident in his pants, because there's other nefarious characters that accost him. And then, because he's a strong character, he works in banking, but also at the same time, he's just, like, very lovable and, like, silly, older male that's married a younger woman, kind of, so his character was just really fun and easy too, so he probably
Yeah.
gave some of those laugh out loud moments.
Nice. I like that. So do you set like goals for you when you're writing? Do you have like a word count or like a certain chapter when you sit down to do a session?
No, no, I've heard of like I said, again, the first one, it was like, I wrote something today, we're going back literally almost to like 2018 when this journey started for me for the first. No. So no, back then, no. And then yes, only basically by the third, I was like, I'm going to finish the third by my birthday, September 1st last year. And I was like, that's it. You're doing it. And if you don't do it, and probably some other things were neglected to make that happen. So.
So within writing, what does a day like your writing look like? Do you have like a certain routine that you do or what does a writing day look like for you?
Well, initially in the beginning, because my children were so much younger, it was just kind of like, they're taking a nap, or I've already, because I homeschool. So it was like if I've already done their schoolwork, or, I could justify what I'm doing, and then I would feel like, well, I don't have any thoughts right now. But then as I got into it, and then I realized if you relax with music and wine, that's what worked for me. Then I could get in that creative mode. And then sometimes by the time I would feel in that creative mode, I'm like, well, I'm too tired now.
Yeah.
But you do, I think probably every author and ones you've interviewed would say your process, you refine it over time, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that. Do you do like with the second and the third book, did you make like mood boards or anything to help you with your creative process?
I thought about that. I had this big envision, like, oh, it's got to cover a whole wall. And I think and bought one of those marker erase boards that would go on the wall. And I thought, oh, I don't know. Cause then people be like, look, not people, but, like my husband or my kids be like, what's that mean? Or what's this for? I was like, no, that'll get on my nerves.
Yeah.
If I had an office, I could shut the door. I could only close the curtains in mine. I think it would be great. I'd honestly would like to be able to do that, but I haven't done that so far. It's all been written pictures. I did cut out pictures, like I was going to
Mhm.
scrapbook them, but they just
Yeah.
were in a folder.
Yeah. Well, that works. You just look at
Yeah,
them and
yeah.
that works. So, what is something unique or quirky about you that we maybe don't know or a hobby that you have?
Unique or quirky that I will be willing to talk to anyone and everyone, and I'll just keep talking and laughing. No, that's a parent probably. Okay. That I will go, as you've seen already, I will walk around my neighborhood with one of these and not like a Tervis cup or something.
Uh-huh.
And it was only until this family moved in, the husband's British, that I was joking. I was like, well, I'm just out scaring the neighbors with my actual glass of wine while I watch my daughter play. And he's like, you're not going to scare me. And I was like, "Oh my god, I love you. You're amazing."
You speak me.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I feel like we're in our environment, if we were more like European or even like some Asian cultures, you would have that centralized place you could sit with, like, playing games and kids and food and drink, and it would be acceptable. So
Yeah. Yeah. I wish there was more of that here. I studied
Mhm.
abroad and everybody was very much like connected. And here it's
Mhm.
like you don't even look at your neighbor. Like,
Yep.
don't talk to
You
me.
might
Like
know
it's
their
very
car.
disconnected.
I would hear
Yeah.
people say, "I know what car they drive." And that's it.
Yeah, exactly. It's very strange. It's very strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what makes a great story?
Well, I think any sort, like I said, it's funny. It kind of alluded to like watching YouTubers, which I loathed in
Mhm.
the beginning, but I'm like, I'm watching this 25-year-old dude jump and fall and spray foam in his house and whatever. And I'm like, but I kind of can enjoy his journey and his entertainment. And then you go to like watching something extremely dramatic. Like I can go from one extreme to the other. Well, not dramatic, but like something that would depict World War II or something, and
Yeah.
like how poorly people were treated. And yeah, I feel like you could just get roped into it. I feel like so many stories are amazing. It just everything. Like I love everything, from yeah. I think that is what makes a healthy person and a writer. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is the most surprising thing you've learned or profound thing you've learned on your writing journey?
mm, might have to think. The most surprising thing, um how much I was willing to go forward with book 2 and 3. That was never a thought in my mind at the time. I would say that, and the most surprising thing would be that, initially when I started the marketing, I was like, "Oh, just readers, just connect with them." But then when I started connecting with other authors and just people in the industry, I was like, "Oh, that feels so comfy in a way. It
Yeah.
just feels comfy, you know?"
Yeah. Because they've
You
been
don't
through it, I think.
Yeah, and you don't see them as like a threat or like, "Oh, you write," or well, "No, I'm the writer," or, "I'm wonderful." No, you love the whole community, I guess. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it is a very welcoming and mostly there's a few, weird ones out there, but most of them everybody's always supportive and lifting
yeah.
everybody else up and they want to see everyone succeed and that's what I love about the community is that camaraderie that
Yeah. I mean,
there.
I'm feeling it today. Like this has been like a 100% mood lifter for me. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah,
Glad. Glad.
absolutely.
So, how do you celebrate your milestones? Have you done that yet?
Well, I would always say wine, but then wine's every day.
Yeah.
Then I would say special wine, but special wine is easy to come by. I would say I did, if it's pertinent to like celebrating the milestone, it was always just also for other purposes. But I did go to Dubai last year and I've never traveled by myself without my kids. My husband and I have never traveled without them.
Yeah.
And I traveled without all of them.
Oh,
And I
wow.
did go to the Sharjah International Book Fair. I just, I've always been drawn to the Middle East. So, and I kind of told myself, like, this is a celebration more of myself too, because I've never really, like I said, traveled by myself internationally. It's always been with kids and a husband and strollers and car seats and, always kind of the wingman and like the drama
Yeah.
that goes with
Yeah.
that. And I just kind of I needed to do something out of my element. And I thought, that's what I need. I need that. I needed that. And I did that. So, was able to do it very inexpensively. So it's not as if the book sales were rolling in.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was really the only thing I thought. I always envisioned I'm going to go to an elaborate dinner, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, you can do that."
That's awesome. So what was like a highlight of your trip there? Like something you did that you're like, "Wow, this is great."
I hope this is perceived well, but going to Sharjah is definitely not like Dubai. It's very well, I can only really say because I went into, let's just call it, the Civic Center Convention Center for this point. I can't remember exactly what it was called. And there's a plethora of people there, but like my bookmarks are a little bit risque, because I kind of cropped it to where it shows like the cover part where there's like the lady who's almost nude on the couch from
Mhm.
the cover of my book. And so I approached two young girls. One was in pretty much like a, not just a hijab, but it's not necessarily the burqa, I forget what it's called, the abaya. Buy
Okay.
it? Okay. Okay, just so yeah.
Yeah.
And if they were young and one wasn't, one was, one wasn't, and they were just so sweet and welcoming, and I was like, "Oh, I'm an author too," and, like, I showed them bookmarks, and they kinda giggled, they were excited, and I was like, but they were there buying books, and I'm like, and I said, "Well, I read once where you write like no one's going to read it, so you'll be honest." And I said, "And I can imagine that sometimes we might read what we don't want maybe other people to know we're reading." And they kinda giggled and
Yeah.
liked that, and I gave them bookmarks, and I didn't expect them to, like, try and buy the book because my cover's not actually appropriate for the GCC countries.
Uh-huh.
So until I can get my, book cover artist back, he's not able
Yeah.
to work in our country right now. But that was it was a liberating moment to know that across all, like, ethnicities, religions, cultures, we all kinda will, like a little bit
Yeah.
of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's true. That's definitely
Yeah.
true.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I agree. It there's more in common than there's not in
That's
common.
that's it, you just summed it up, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you feel if you could go into a time machine and travel back in time and talk to your younger writing self? What would you tell yourself knowing what you know now?
Maybe to has really nothing to do with it, just eat a little bit healthier, drink a little bit less wine, but no, the wine definitely helped, the music definitely helped, discovered many wonderful artists along the way, like musicians, I mean. What would I tell myself? I don't know that I would have something because I did learn so much because it was such a long journey. I learned so much. Maybe that, like, keep going, you're gonna write book 2 and 3. But then I don't know if that would have thwarted the process, because I
Hmm.
might have been like, I don't believe you.
Yeah. So then on the flip side, if your younger writing self saw you now, what would they say to you? Like what would their thoughts about you now?
Hmm. They would be like, wow, okay, you did something, you know? So, and whether people receive it well, it doesn't matter. So I have a cousin who's a creative person. We're the same age. We grew up doing things together creatively. And he was like, "Yeah, you don't like what I do? Okay, fine." So that kind of helped me to persevere. Just that one
Yeah.
thing that he told me years ago. So
Yeah, that's good advice. I like how you said about write it like no one's gonna read it because then it's authentic.
and that's not my
And
quote.
then
Someone said that I think in a movie, but that stuck with me. So I
yeah.
can't take
But
credit for that.
yes, but it is a good thing to think about because
Hmm.
you're not hindering the process because of that. So you have book one out and then books two and three are out or are they coming out? What's the timeline for your other
Book
books?
2, I do have a date set in May. Basically, the hard part has been ARC campaigns. So I tried to go on my own and, like, get those. So I had my own people that could go back. Okay, you liked 1, let's go to 2, let's go to 3. Even if they gave a 3-star for 1, that's fine. Do you want to go to 2? Do you want to go to 3? But it's very difficult to get those reviews.
Mhm.
So I don't know because then I'm like, I might just have to skip the ARC campaign. The thriller category, I'm told, is not popular. It's just not. Maybe if
Mhm.
you've got a big publisher behind you, you can. So I'm either just gonna have to try to do the ARC campaign and then just throw a book out there. Yeah. Otherwise, book 2 would have been out already.
This is just fun. So, would you rather read from a physical book, an audiobook, or an ebook?
Oh, for sure, physical book.
Book. Okay. So you might not like this next question. I've been told I'm mean.
uh,
Would you rather crack the spine of a paperback or ruin the dust jacket on the hardback?
hmm. I don't want to ruin the dust jacket. I
Oh,
feel like those are just so worthy of a place in life, in our
yeah.
worldly, tangible world. They deserve love.
Yes. So you'd crack the crack the spine.
I guess so. I never thought about it like that. Yeah, but the
Yeah.
dust jacket, I have been upset. I've probably taped one.
Yeah, I love them. I always take them off when I go to read because I don't want to ruin them. And I'll like stick them
That's
in the back of my bookcase so no one touches them and then I put them back
that
on.
is a good idea. I never thought about that. Okay, I love that. Yeah. Okay.
So would you rather have dinner with your favorite character or your favorite author?
I'm going to go rogue and say I'm going to invite them both.
All right. So do you have an idea of who you would invite?
It's sadly I haven't, between being like a preteen reading Danielle Steele and an adult, there weren't a lot in between because everything was more on like, books on esotericism. So there, I can't say, I don't know. Yeah, that would be a hard one to answer.
Would you rather reread your least favorite book or never read your favorite book again?
Hmm. I'm not sure I can answer either one of those because I never really had a book that I didn't like. Yeah, I don't know if I would have a very articulate answer for that.
No
So,
worries.
yeah, okay.
Would you rather tea or coffee?
Oh, that's hard because coffee, 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 and then I plateau and I'm like, I need that cup of Earl Grey tea. So,
Yeah. So a little bit of both. So what's your ideal coffee drink?
nothing special because I'm one of those people that when I go into like a Starbucks, I get nervous. I'm like, I need a medium coffee, and I'm like, I know that's not on the menu.
Yeah.
Those words are not. So I'm primarily a coffee drinker at home. So
All right.
yeah.
Would you rather read the book first or watch the movie first?
Ooh, that's tough. Now that I'm an author or self-published author, I would definitely say I would definitely appreciate reading the novel first because
Read the
it's not
novel
something I
first.
probably ever did before it was, on the TV
Okay.
screens.
So would you rather a sunny day or a rainy day?
Oh, well, I'll go in the middle. I'll split it because one of my words is vamping. That's part of my smeared vampire brand. I like it when it's just enough like cloud overhang, but it's not going to rain necessarily. So
Yeah.
kind of like maybe a summer rain kind of feel,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. My last question for you is what message do you want readers to take away after reading your books?
Definitely want them to feel like they were like, wow, I was here, I was in this country, and I was in that country, and I was looking out for this antagonist, and then this one came over here, and then, oh, wait, back, but I'm in love with him, and I could totally believe that. And then, like, I'm envious. I want to kind of be her because let's face it, whether you're a male, female, you grow up wanting to be somebody,
Yeah.
and that to me would be like wonderful if they felt like they went on this journey and that they were all these things are happening. And then at the end, if they could envision themselves or their younger selves, like,
Yeah.
yes, that's believable.
Yeah. Like they went on the adventure. Like they were
Yeah, for
right there with
sure.
them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I was a big
Yeah.
adventure kid. As a
Love
kid, I,
that.
I don't probably look like it now, but I'm like, I want to go out and see what's happening in the creek behind my house kind of thing, And
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
when
for
I
sure.
was a kid, it was like Indiana Jones, and I was
Oh,
like, I want to
God.
be an anthropologist and an adventurer and go like
Oh,
find
yeah.
things in the other
Yeah.
countries. So that was like my dream when I was a kid.
Yeah. 100%. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and talking about your books. I'm very excited to read them. And I just love that, you had your journey and you've changed things and you're opening up to new worlds and you're letting others know that, it's okay if you don't know what you're doing at the beginning, you get there. It's the
Yeah.
process that counts. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
yeah, of course. Well, I put her information below so you can find her and please like and subscribe. You can also follow her on social media and through the links below. And join me next time as we get another look behind the book. Bye.
Thank you.